The royal family has gathered in Scotland for their annual summer break at Balmoral. It marks a rare occasion that they're all together, but there's one high-profile absentee from this year's event.
Prince William allegedly had to make one of the most audacious and contentious choices of his royal life after what had begun as a peaceful family get-together at Balmoral evolved into a moment so upsetting. Insiders claim that the effects are still being felt in the palace's hallways. A child began to cry. Princess Diana's past traumas were abruptly revealed to the public. William allegedly reached a breaking point that altered everything behind closed doors. For their yearly summer holiday at Balmoral, Scotland, the royal family has come together. They're all assembled for a special occasion, but this year's celebrations noticeably lack one element. The royal family has traditionally held Balmoral in high regard. It is significant because of what it stands for, not because of its size or setting. It is said to be the sole location where family members can dwell without constantly being scrutinized by the public, where titles become meaningless, and where royal traditions diminish their power. It's a place where security guards put their shoulders down, where kids can run freely across wide expanses without having their every move captured on camera, and where discussions feel more natural. But it's precisely this feeling of coziness that makes this tale so engrossing, because a dispute at Balmoral seems more like a very personal matter than palace politics. The day started out like many others, according to stories about the incident. There were family members present. It seems to be a laid-back environment. The independence that Balmoral has traditionally granted to royal children was being abused by Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis. It was unexpected how dramatic it was. Nobody anticipated crying. Nobody anticipated the purported occurrence that would lead to a change in royal authority. According to reports, young Prince Louis partly distanced himself from the main group, exactly what kids do when they feel safe and at ease. Nothing about it was out of the ordinary. It was, in fact, perhaps the most routine part of the day. However, the most commonplace activities can occasionally yield incredible outcomes. Then, according to legend, Camilla's grandchild came up to him. Those who are familiar with the story disagree sharply on what transpired next. The comments made to Louis, according to those who were allegedly aware of the encounter, were not light-hearted digs. They were characterized as rude, acerbic, and intimate. Reports that said the remarks hurt Catherine and other members of Louis's family were even more startling. Then came the information that allegedly turned a disagreement from childhood into something far more intense. The name of Princess Diana. Take a moment to consider that. Diana is more than just another member of the royal family. In contemporary royal history, she continues to be one of the most emotionally potent names. Her memory continues to have an impact on discussions both inside and outside the monarchy decades after her passing. Her impact hangs over almost every significant stage involving her boys. Her narrative continues to evoke strong emotions, and her legacy continues to split opinions. As a result, the affair immediately took on an entirely different meaning when allegations surfaced that Diana's name was included in remarks made against Louis. Louis seems to have responded in the only way a youngster could, because he was still too young to fully comprehend the complex history around his family. He started crying. He immediately went back to his mother. Insiders claim that the atmosphere changed almost instantly, and that picture alone explains why. Balmoral was at ease for a while. After that, the environment seemed to have a considerably darker aspect, but at this point, the narrative becomes even more engrossing. According to reports, Catherine did not respond as many had anticipated. There was no major altercation, no public dispute, and no emotional moment that led family members to escape. Witnesses reported witnessing something far more disturbing instead. She stopped moving. Shouting might never be as loud as silence. Catherine's best quality, according to those who have studied royal dynamics for years, is her composure. When things are tough, she rarely expresses her own emotions. However, several people who were aware of the incident claimed that she had a different expression that day. one that was more concentrated, colder, and suggested she wasn't just going to move on. Employees appear to have seen it right away, not a fit of rage. Anger is restrained. This distinction is important because emotional outbursts can be significantly less dangerous than controlled rage. Apparently, the remainder of the day went on as if nothing had occurred. Family relatives continued. Discussions went on. Activities continued. Beneath it all, though, there appeared to be an unavoidable increasing tension. Maybe the grins continued. Schedules might have continued. However, insiders claim that everyone knew that a much longer discussion was about to start. Hours later, Catherine and William are said to have sat down together once the day's distractions had ended and privacy had finally arrived. Everything may have altered after that talk. According to those who are familiar with the narrative, Catherine did not portray the quarrel as a straightforward argument between kids. According to reports, she perceived something far bigger, more significant, and related to patterns that she thought were difficult to ignore. Diana is believed to have resumed the conversation at that point, not as a recollection. Not symbolically, that is. Just be cautious, though. Insiders claim that Catherine made William think about an issue that has plagued him for most of his life. The idea that organizations don't always protect the people they are meant to. The most agonizing illustration of that failure is still Diana's story. William has first-hand knowledge of it. He saw it. He has to deal with these wounds every day. Catherine reportedly conveyed a straightforward, yet impactful message. The past must not be repeated. According to reports, she insisted that George, Charlotte, and Louis would never suffer the psychological harm that profoundly affected William's own early years. Additionally, sources claim that William's mind shifted from handling a difficult family matter to something much more significant at that very moment. According to accounts of the incident, Kensington Palace's atmosphere was entirely different the following morning. What had started out as a childish emotional outburst was now being handled as something much more serious. It has been reported that senior aides have been called to unannounced meetings. Discussions became strangely quiet. There are fewer and fewer ways to communicate. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary from the outside. The audience witnessed yet another typical royal day. However, insiders assert that a significant change was taking on behind closed doors. Prince William was the focus of attention. According to several people who are aware of the story, William came with a thorough briefing packet. Both the content and the forethought of the strategy seemed to astound the attendees. It is reported that William lost interest in seeking a solution following one awkward encounter at Balmoral. Rather, he was examining Camilla's family's overall reputation in royal circles over time. Investigations were conducted into invitations to events, ceremonial appearances, public significance, and unofficial access. Later, palace insiders hailed the procedure as exact, comprehensive, and clear. Every action seems to be planned to reduce impact rather than simply convey a message. William's poise surprised everyone. There were allegedly no signals that he was moving swiftly, no impassioned remarks, and no spectacular outbursts of annoyance. That calm really made the issue worse. Emotionally motivated choices frequently change over time. They are re-evaluated, they become softer, they have been flipped around. However, thoughtful choices are not the same. They usually make it through. Everyone present was aware that William had already made a decision. Then came the event that really caught palace onlookers off guard. According to legend, William took immediate action and notified King Charles later, instead of adhering to the customary royal route of consultation. According to reports, the statement was straightforward yet kind. The choice had already been made. No authorization request was made, no debate invitation, no chance to change anything. Experienced courtiers said that such an episode exposed something considerably more significant than the immediate problem. It portrayed a future monarch who was more eager to use authority than merely inherit it. King Charles, of course, immediately gained prominence. Would he step in? Would he undo the order? Would he back Camilla? Palace reports state that Camilla was not happy at all. According to insiders, she contended that such important decisions ought to have been made via the appropriate channels. Her worries were significant from an institutional standpoint. Traditionally, the monarchy has relied on structure, hierarchy, and consultation. Difficult authority issues may arise if significant choices are allowed to avoid such a framework. But it appears that Charles decided not to intervene in spite of these worries. Of all the decisions, that one was probably the most wise. Charles is said to have accepted William's instruction rather than questioning it. Observers said the decision was influenced by a number of factors. The king has had to deal with personal health issues, public criticism, and family conflicts for years. In the perspective of the people, William and Catherine have also come to symbolize the monarchy. They are still quite well liked. They seem to have a real bond with the people. Moreover, a lot of insiders think Charles knew the institution's ultimate destiny. The public's response changed on its own when word of the purported incidents finally spread outside the royal boundaries. In conversations, articles, and social media posts, one name kept popping up: Diana. This story was never just about Balmoral to many. It was never only a dispute between kids or family members. Rather, it grew to represent something far more significant. William's mother's story was used by supporters to excuse his actions. They witnessed a son committed to shielding his own children from psychological suffering and determined to prevent history from repeating itself. It hardly mattered if this interpretation was totally correct. The public took notice of the perception. What is said to have happened thereafter is perhaps the most startling aspect of the tale. Nothing has altered. There was no compromise. There was no silent reversal. The lesson's significance was not diminished by any public changes. There was no change in the position. And perhaps more about William than any speech is revealed by that consistency. He has built a reputation for being sympathetic, affable, and perceptive throughout his public life. However, many individuals who pay careful attention to royal affairs have long thought that he has a different side. One that can be found anywhere. There is a connection to family, loyalty, or principle. In this story, William doesn't begin to make noise until he notices that someone has passed through a barrier. He responds by taking action. Silent movement. Extended interaction. Maybe this is why the Balmoral tale is still relevant today. It supposedly revealed more than a family conflict. It provided an insight into a future monarch's style of leadership. A monarch who may grin in public, yet make tough choices behind closed doors. A monarch is more inclined to question long-standing customs when his family's safety is at risk. If insiders are right, the effects of that choice are still being felt today. Because one question lingered over the monarchy long after the tears had dried and the Balmoral gathering was past. Was this a single family dispute? Or did Prince William start quietly influencing the future then?